Hello, this is Keith. I'm with EveningsHadowsTarot.com. If you would like to check out my webpage, it's below this video, and there'll be a link, and you can check to see. You can learn some things like where I learned to read cards and a little bit about my life. And if you'd like to purchase a reading, you can go through that website, and you pay through PayPal. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I painted this background a few weeks ago, and I wanted to use it, and mainly I want to talk to you about something and see what you believe. I'm a senior citizen now, and I had never really ever have seen a ghost until about 20 years ago. And I moved to a new location, to a new house. It was sort of a dream house. It was really too big for me. The house was way too large for a single person to live in. But I fell in love with this house. And when I purchased it, it had been ignored for a few years. It was probably 40 years old, and it needed to be redone. And when I purchased it, the day I purchased it, they handed me the keys, and I drove over and went in and looked the house over, and it was just, I had seen it only one other time, and had made an offer, and they took it. I just fell in love with the house, and I walked through it, and I've always believed that a house has a spirit, and it either welcomes you or it doesn't. And that house welcomed me. And I said, you know, you were beautiful not many years ago, but you've been neglected, and you need to be brought up to date, painted and everything. And I decided I could do that. And so I gave it a talking to that day, and then I left and went back to my other house. And I started making plans on how to do this house. And finally I did move into it. And I decided to do the work after I moved in. I had completed every room. Sometimes I would stay up at night and paint. And paint all night, and then sometimes rest in the daytime. Suddenly I had time to do anything I wanted to do. I was somewhat retired, and that house was the main project. There was one room that I had not gotten to. I had painted the other rooms, wallpapered most of them, painted ceilings, walls, woodwork, everything, and it was really looking nice. But I had ignored this front bedroom that I hadn't used, and I decided that it would be the next project, but I hadn't gotten to it yet. One day I was walking. It was about 10 o'clock in the morning, and I must tell you that sometimes my imagination runs away with me, but it's usually in the middle of the night if I hear strange sounds. And it was about 10 in the morning, and I was whistling, and I walked into that room, kept that door shut, and I walked up into the room. And as I walked across, there was like a little hallway. Once you opened the door, there was a little hallway, and then you went into the room. And as I was walking across, something caught my, and I was whistling, I remember that, and humming, and I opened this dresser to get a paintbrush out of, or something that I needed, and I looked across the room, and over in the far corner, the right side of the room, the corner next to the street, I saw smoke, and it alarmed me. I thought, oh my gosh, my house is on fire. And I saw this column of smoke. And when I glanced over at the column, I thought, oh, Lance, what will I thought it must be electrical, but because it was just coming through that wall. And when I looked across there, and this daylight, and there's plenty of light in that room, and I saw this column of smoke. And as I looked at it, I started to walk towards it, and the column turned. I know this sounds strange, but it turned in just a second. I mean, it turned toward me, and when it faced me, I could see an older woman's face in this. And I mean, she was mad. And when she came toward me, the smoke came toward me, and I kind of stepped back one step, and I'm telling you, that smoke went right through my body. I don't know how to describe it other than I could feel the penetration of that smoke just go completely through the front and out the back. And then it was gone. But when it did this, I felt this hate from this, whatever this was. And it was a ghost, is all I know to tell you what it could be. But it scared me to death, and I walked backwards, and I had some dogs, and I started walking backwards out of that room. And when I got out, I shut that door, and I said, my gosh, what in the world was that? What was that? It didn't speak. There was no sound. But I'm telling you, when that smoke went through me, it just hit me face on. I mean, it went through me, and you could feel that going through me, and I could feel hatred that ghost was mad. Well, I'm telling you, the next night, or that night, I thought, I'm not going in that room. I just can't go back in there. There's something wrong. And that night, I was working in the room next to it. That was my office. And I could hear some noises. And I thought, well, I'll take the dogs with me. So they came with me, and I said, come here. And I said, can you hear that noise? And they looked at me like they couldn't hear anything. But I'm telling you, I could certainly hear something. And noises, and it was shuffling in there. You couldn't have given me $1 million, and I'll tell you, I could certainly use $1 million, as anyone probably could. But I wouldn't have gone in that room for $1 million. I'm telling you, I stepped back, and I was in that house, and it was a real large house. It was one story, but it was a huge house. And I was petrified. A few nights later, I heard it again. And I thought, what in the world? Well, it came time for me to paint that. In about 2 weeks, I thought, you've got to go in there and paint that room. And I thought, I just can't go in there. And I knew it happened in the daytime. I thought, just think what might happen at night if I was in there painting. Well, finally, I got the drop cloth ready and the paint, and it was white. I was going to do the woodwork white. And that's the only room that I hadn't done, that I hadn't painted. And I walked in, and I was moving slowly, and I had the can of paint and the drop cloth and brush, and I walked in, and I looked in that corner. There wasn't a thing in that corner. Now, it was daylight, and I put the drop cloth down, and I was not feeling comfortable yet, and I put the drop cloth down, got the paint out, opened it, and I started to paint. And I'm telling you, I put the paint up here, and when I did the first, I'd say 12, 18 inches of that paint going down that woodwork, immediately that feeling that I had in there of uneasiness, it left that room. Whatever that was in there did not appear again, but it disappeared. And I'm telling you, I had no idea what it was. I still don't know what it was. All I can tell you is it was a ghost. It had to be. There's nothing else. And nothing like that has happened to me since. It didn't happen in that room. After I asked the neighbor if an older lady had lived at that house in at any time and had passed away. No. I said, did an older lady ever come stay in there with the people that owned it? No. And asked me what I saw, and I told him. Well, that's strange, isn't it? So after I got it all papered and everything, it took months to get it painted and papered and fixed like I wanted it. Well, I had the next door neighbor come over. She said, this is the most comfortable room. Of all your rooms, this is the prettiest room here. And she looked at me kind of funny. She said, this isn't the room where you saw the ghost, is it? And I said, yes. She said, have you seen it since? I said, no. The first thing that I did was when I took that paintbrush and I went down that woodwork, I said, that whole room just kind of changed. The feeling changed. It was easy. I loved that room after that. And whatever that was, moved on. Moved out, is all I can tell you. So that's the story. And I want to know if you have ever seen a ghost. I never saw that one again. And and I loved living at that house. I didn't stay there too long, a few years, and it just was too large for me, and so I moved to another house. And but I really did love that house. Now, what I'd like to do is just a brief reading, and it's do you believe in do you believe there are ghosts out there? The first card shows productivity. It is the Empress, and she always produces. And the second card is the Sword. That's winning, one, a new life starting. And that was a new life when I was in it. The next one is stress at the night, and yes, I did feel stress in that house until I started painting it, and then it left. The next one is coins. It's 10, completion, and it did cost me quite a bit to redo that house, by the way. I got it at a reasonable price, but by the time I got through painting it, it was no longer reasonable. The next one is building up a wall, and yes, I did. I built up a wall to protect me, I guess, against that room. I wouldn't go back in there, and finally gave up and started remodeling it. The next one is the Empress, or the High Priestess, and she is like the female pope, has to do with religion. The next one is rest, and yes, I did rest after that, and took time to I didn't push myself, in other words. The next one is the Hermit, and yes, I was alone when it happened, and I lived in that house alone. The next one is winning a battle, and I feel like I did win a battle over that. You see the young man has got two swords, and he beats these other two in combat. The next one is the King of Cups, and that has to do with emotion. And he knows all. And let's do one more card, and here it is. It's the Page, and it has to do with money and looking forward. I can only tell you that this happened to me. Only thing I could figure out was I promised that house when I moved in there that I would paint it and bring it back to its former glory, and I did. But I had not painted that room, and I feel like whatever that was occupied that room, and perhaps it was the house turning on me. I know that sounds crazy, but I can't tell you what it really was other than a ghost. I don't know why the ghost was there. No one had passed away there. I just not for sure on that part. But I felt like as soon as I started painting it, the house realized I was going to finish it up. And whatever it was, I think that the house expelled it. That's all I know. It did not have evil in it. It was a wonderful home. It is just too large for me. I would like for you to subscribe if you would like to, and to hit that little bell, and then it'll let you know when I do other readings. This was a rather fast reading. I mainly wanted to tell you the ghost story that had happened to me. The only thing I can figure out is I love that house so much, and it just was too large for me, and the taxes where I live are very high. You'd think we lived in New York City, they're so high. And it's not as high as New York City, but it is way too expensive for me. I moved to a house that is smaller and has less expense for taxes. I hope this has helped you. Comment if you believe in ghosts, and you might even tell me the story about it. I thank you for watching this and listening. I do have a few more stories I would like to tell you of strange things that have happened to me. The rest did not have to do with ghosts. Thank you so much, and I hope you will give me a thumbs up on this, and will subscribe. Thank you.